Hello everyone, and today I'm going to be taking a very close look at what is currently my favourite film of 2024, Late Night with the Devil. Late Night with the Devil is an independent Australian film directed by brothers Cameron and Colin Cairns, and it stars David Dastmalchian, Laura Gordon, Ingrid Torelli, Ian Bliss, Faisal Batsi, and Rhys Orteri. The film takes place on Halloween night in 1977, and it follows a man named Jack Delroy, a radio presenter turned late night talk show host. Although his late show, entitled Night Owls with Jack Delroy, was once very successful, it has been on a steady decline in the ratings, struggling to keep up with Johnny Carson's late night show. In a desperate attempt to boost ratings and be on the same level as his rivals, Jack plans an extra spooky Halloween special, where he invites a psychic, a skeptic, a parapsychologist, and an allegedly possessed 13-year-old girl onto his show. I'm going to say right now that if you haven't seen the film, do yourself a favour and check it out, because it is one of the most unique and memorable horror films in years. It's an extremely well-researched film that pays close attention to the time of the 1970s, lovingly recreating sets of similar late-night talk shows such as The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson or The Don Lane Show. Not only that, but it has excellent performances, a very clever narrative device, a slow build of tension, and an excellent commentary on fame, the price of fame, as well as the hysteria surrounding America at the time and how that is still relevant today. This video will be containing spoilers, so there is your warning. One of the most interesting parts about this film is its narrative device, and the way in which it frames itself. The film opens with a montage narrated by Michael Ironside that sets the stage for the film. We get a lot of crucial information here, but before we talk about that, I want to discuss how the film is presented to us. The film is presented as a documentary at an unspecified time, although we can assume that it is at least a couple of decades after the infamous Halloween special, due to the way it recaps the manic hysteria and paranoia surrounding America at the time. There has been a lot of mystery surrounding the last ever episode of Night Owls, and this documentary states that the master tapes from October 31st, 1977 on the UBC channel, a fictional channel, have just been salvaged, including previously unseen behind-the-scenes footage that is presented in black and white. As an audience member, we can assume that in the world of the film, the Night Owls Halloween special has become a bit of a mythical legend, due to the fact that no one really knows exactly what happened that night, except for those people unfortunate enough to watch it live. We'll talk about what might have happened to those live viewers later, but for now, let's continue. This presentation feels as though you're about to watch something that has gone unseen for decades, as you're about to watch something you shouldn't be, and most importantly, you feel like you are watching something that truly happened. Found footage is a subgenre that is so overdone that nowadays it just feels like it's used as a shortcut to make lower budget films. This is fine, but the problem is that it's not scary or entertaining. It'll utilise a bunch of shaky cam in place of suspense and then cut off before anything actually interesting happens. These films usually lack creativity and lack a sense of realism, which is the complete opposite of what this subgenre should be. Films like the Paranormal Activity sequels and The Last Exorcism are just dull because it's like someone just grabbed a camera, used a stick to close some doors mysteriously, shook it around a bit at the end to show that something's happening, and then the footage just cuts off. Late Night with the Devil truly feels like you are watching something that happened and is real, which is why I think this salvage master tape narrative device is so clever and unique. Once the documentary style opening is finished, the rest of the film is just footage from the master tape, and you are watching the recently discovered footage of this mysterious incident. Now, the film does break this facade in the final moments, in which we travel inside Jack Delroy's head before snapping back out to the master tape footage. I've seen some criticisms saying that this film betrays its own premise, but I respectfully disagree. I think that it's interesting that the film allows itself to break its own illusion, because it's only breaking the illusion for the better. We're allowed to see inside Jack Delroy's head, and then when it snaps back to the master tape footage, we know exactly what is happening to him. I'll break down the ending a little bit later, but for now, I'd just like to say that this change in perspective doesn't break the film at all for me. Going back to the opening of the film, we see the United States of America in absolute turmoil during the 1970s. The Vietnam War was large at play, Serial killers glorified by media such as Charles Manson and John Wayne Gacy instilled fear into the average people. The Bohemian Grove, a men-only club, was the subject of many sinister rumours. Television was allowing horrifying events to be broadcasted directly into the nation's living rooms, and Catholicism was being challenged in art, with films such as The Exorcist and The Omen that legitimately led to many people feeling fear and a severe lack of discomfort. The only thing that American citizens could look forward to, though, was the comforting presence of late-night comedy shows, specifically that of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson and Night Owls with Jack Delroy. These shows took people's minds off of all of the horrors in the world and provided an outlet where everyone could come together, laugh and spread joy. But soon, the talk shows started to veer away from the much-needed levity that they provided and began to stir up controversy. Why? Because people are attracted to controversy. People want to see other people clash, whether it's entirely genuine or not. It still has the same effect as the light-hearted days of the talk show. It takes people's mind off the world, but when the talk shows become a rating competition, the producers will do whatever they can to allure viewers. This heavily relates to the present day as well, with people constantly doing stupid shit to try and get a few 100,000 more views on YouTube. Consider the Logan Paul Japanese forest video. He did that video because he knew that it would spark attention. Positive or negative, he would financially gain from it. Or look at someone like Dr. Phil. He finds the most deluded, disturbed people that he can so he can get them onto his show in hopes that they will do something or say something crazy that will get him attention. When people come onto his show and swear and carry on like idiots, the episode gets shared around and more people watch it, and Dr. Phil reaps the rewards. Late Night with the Devil very smartly tackles this topic, putting a mirror at the audience's face and making them think about what they consume and the ethical nature of the entertainment business. Not only that, but going back to what I was saying about these shows being a safe haven, this film exploits that and effectively corrupts innocence. It turns a safe space into the very thing it is attempting to escape, where demonic possession, illness, and murder all occur. Movies such as Orphan and Hush work because they are taking something that is usually considered safe, such as a child or your home, and turn it into a deadly scenario. Late Night with the Devil does the same thing. It takes something that you can take solace in and twists that on its head. Religion is another part of America that was being challenged, with people being literally traumatized by The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a fictional film, and if people thought that they could be safe watching a light-hearted talk show to escape the fictional horrors of The Exorcist, then they were wrong. Late Night with the Devil effectively confirms a viewer's worst nightmare, that the devil is here among us. What happened in that fictional film, a young girl being possessed by the devil, is now happening in reality, live on television. This film brilliantly taps into that post-Exorcist paranoia surrounding America at the time, and it makes it feel even more real and of the time. The mystery surrounding the Bohemian Grove was heavily present in the media of the 1970s. The Bohemian Grove was a men-only club where some of the most prominent men in the world would visit for 2 weeks each July. People who visited this club include Ronald Reagan, Richard Nixon, and J. Robert Oppenheimer. The goings-on of the Grove have been heavily debated, with most participants claiming that it was just a relaxing retreat, but some have speculated far more sinister occurrings, such as getting in contact with dark forces to achieve their goals. Late Night with the Devil plays into that skepticism and concern about what occurs at the Grove, as it does with religion and violence. The nature surrounding the film, and how it manages to lean into all of it, is what makes this film so effective and interesting. On one hand, you have a commentary on clubs, specifically for the social elite and the potentially unethical events taking place there. On another hand, you have the discussion on how the entertainment industry is often exploitative and that people can get hurt when chasing fame and ratings. On your third hand, you have a reflection on how the American people felt in relation to war, violence, and murder as being shoved into their living rooms, and how the safety of their own home and television sets were used against them. And on your final hand, you have a representation of religion gone bad and how Americans feared religion after the splash that The Exorcist made. Next, we're going to talk about how the film specifically delivers on those 4 points. Let's talk about the Bohemian Grove first. In Late Night with the Devil, Jack Delroy took part in one of these rituals to achieve his fame, where he had to bow down to the mascot of the Grove, a giant owl. I assume that Jack Delroy called his show Night Owls to honour whatever dark forces he came into contact with at the Grove. In the final sequence, when we see Jack taking part in this ritual, the audience's worst fears are confirmed. Jack Delroy did indeed make a deal with the devil to achieve fame and fortune. With this information, audience members can assume that all other members of the Grove who received fortune and fame, such as Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan, did the exact same thing. Now, to avoid any confusion, I am obviously not saying that this is the case in reality. I'm talking about a fictional film where a fictional character makes a deal with the devil. I'm talking within the world of the film, not real life. Now, let's move on to how the film deals with the exploitative side of the entertainment industry. First and foremost, we see Jack's wife die of cancer as the price to pay for making a deal with the devil. Jack knows that he will have to pay a significant price for fame, and yet he continues forward with the deal. Now, although this death arises from supernatural circumstances, the point still stands that some people will do whatever it takes for them to get to the top, even if it is to someone else's detriment. This doesn't just relate to entertainment either. Think of the film The Wolf of Wall Street, the true story of Jordan Belfort. This is a man who would subtly suck the American people dry for his own financial benefit. Selfish people who want success and find it are those who step on others along the way, and both Jack Delroy and Jordan Belfort fit into this category. Running with this point is the inclusion of Lily in his show. Now, Lily is a young girl who is possessed, and Jack uses her possession as the main selling point of his Halloween special. He pressures Lily's doctor/guardian, Dr. June Ross Mitchell, into bringing the demon out of her, causing potential danger to the cast, crew, and audience, as well as Lily, just so he can get more attention directed towards his show. Jack is using a traumatized and troubled young girl to boost his own ratings, and the exploitative nature of television and entertainment is a timeless topic of discussion. Television in America in the 1970s was becoming less of a luxury and more of a normality, but the people were starting to notice the less than wholesome sides of it. Photos and footage of the Vietnam War were being projected into the living rooms every night, the intricate details of serial killers were being read aloud while a happy family eats dinner, and figures like Jack Delroy alleviated the stress and heavy nature of TV. But this particular episode dives straight into the very horrors that the public was trying to escape, specifically in the sequence when we see the short documentary about the satanic church that worshipped the demon Abraxas. As we touched on earlier, this film does an excellent job of taking something that should be a source of comfort and relaxation and turning it into a nightmare. And finally, before we discuss the ending of the film, let's talk about religion and the impact that The Exorcist left on the American people. Now, Christianity around the world was beginning to decline around the 1970s, slowly but surely. Some people were thinking of religion as a laughingstock, other people were attempting whatever they could to try and bring about the second coming of Christ to make people believe again. Well, it seemed like a lot of people thought that The Exorcist was the coming of the Antichrist. Some skeptics had even said that this film had caused them a spiritual crisis. It can be easily assumed that these people who had been borderline traumatized by The Exorcist would find solace in Night Owls.
I have a friend in there alone, and I don't want to leave her in there alone.
I'm not standing here shaking for nothing.
How about you?
It's very, very real.
I don't like it. I'm gonna go home. I want to see if it's gonna make me throw up.
That is one of the most grossest movies in the world. I ain't never took my coat over my face like that.
I thought it was very painful. Just tore my mind.
Terrible. I just found it really horrible. Just had to come out. Couldn't take it anymore.
People are extremely depressed by this.
A spark of comedy and life after the sun went down. But viewing this episode live would confirm these people's worst fears. The devil is here with us in reality, and he isn't just a part of this fictional film that we convinced ourselves wasn't real. And not only that, but he was going to enter our own living rooms through the television sets. Late Night with the Devil provides so much context for itself that there is so much to read into, to think about, and to assume. There is even more that we could discuss, but for time's sake, let's move on to the final segment of this video, the ending. The ending to Late Night with the Devil is one of the most bold and out there conclusions to any film that I've seen in recent years. It has left some people scratching their heads, but it's also left a lot of people wanting to dive back into this film again and again, including myself. My interpretation is this. Now first, for some background information. Jack made a deal with the devil in which he would receive high ratings for his television show, but he had to pay a price. The price ended up being his beloved wife. The episode that featured his ill wife received the highest ratings the show had ever gotten, but then Madeline died shortly after. Jack vanished from public eye for about a month after Madeline's death, not piecing together his wife's death with his deal with Satan, to make another deal with dark forces, this time the demon Abraxas. And again, like his deal with the devil, there will be a price. Keep in mind that both Abraxas and the devil are allies, and also that Lily was the sole survivor of a ritualistic mass suicide. Abraxas is said to be a showman, and likes the attention, so to fulfill his needs, the devil inside of Lily murders almost everyone in the studio with a big fiery bang. She snaps Gus's neck, she slits June's throat, and she burns Carmichael into a crisp. Instead of killing Jack, however, the devil possesses Jack and shows him a glimpse of hell. I believe that the widescreen montage, where he is forced to host a nightmarish version of the show, while also reliving his worst memories, is hell. He has to go through the feeling of losing his wife again, he has to take part in the ritual at the grove again, he has to deal with the angry ghost of his dead wife. Every single horrible thing that he did or happened to him is happening on repeat in hell. There are even some shots where Jack appears to be the guest on his own show. Jack seems to be laughing at himself on the couch. I believe that this is Jack being punished for exploiting his guests, where when he would normally be the exploiter, he has become the exploited in hell. Jack begins to realise what is happening to the viewers as he begs them to switch off their televisions. All people who were watching the live broadcast allowed legitimate evil into their living rooms.
Switch off your televisions. Turn off your TV sets. Stop watching this. Turn it off! Turn it off! Turn it off!
Quite similar to how they would let footage of the Vietnam War into their living rooms. Now, what happens to the viewers of the show? This is left unanswered, but I believe that this is the devil's way of spreading and reaching more people, cursing them and ruining their lives. To try and redeem himself, he is tricked into thinking that he has to put his wife out of her misery by stabbing her, only for the devil to leave his body and reveal what is actually happening. He has actually stabbed Lily with the sacrificial dagger from the Satanic Church's mass suicide. With the devil's help, Jack has unwittingly helped Abraxas complete the ritual that the Satanic Church didn't complete due to Lily's survival. With Lily dead, the ritual is now complete, and this is confirmed with the small text at the bottom of the static screen saying, "So it is done." Dark forces now have the ability to grow stronger and do God only knows what next, as Jack hears police sirens approaching in the distance. I do believe that once Jack Delroy dies, he'll be sent back to hell the exact same way the devil promised him. It is a crazy ending to the film, and explaining it doesn't do it justice. I love the way it leaves things up to multiple interpretations, but to quickly sum up my own interpretation, this is it. All viewers who are watching live have allowed the devil to spread through their living rooms. The devil murders everyone except for Jack, choosing to possess him and show him a glimpse of hell where the vengeful spirit of his wife will be waiting for him when he dies. He is then tricked into stabbing Lily to complete Abraxas' ritual. The camera then cuts out, confirming the completion of the ritual, and then the film cuts to credits. Thank you very much for listening to my interpretation of this excellent film. It's my first attempt at a narrated video essay, so I hope it was listenable and not just me blabbling on for too long. I'll see you all later.